南无本师释迦牟尼佛，南无本师释迦牟尼佛，南无本师释迦牟尼佛。We pay homage to our respected teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, nice picture tonight. Fuzzy. You know what's this called? No, I don't either. Maybe you should actually check it out with your phone. Use your Google scan, Google picture, or Google what? Google find.
Is it from a tree or is it from a weed?
From a, I don't know. It's from the river. It's at the river. It's, actually, it's autumn time when they all go into seed. Actually, I think I took this picture around winter time, November or December. It's beautiful.
Is it a bush or a tree?
Oh, now Mali, you know the name of it? Sorry, we missed your hand. Wild what?
Clematis.
Oh, clematis. Oh, of course. Wild clematis. Huh.
Checked it out. There's a plant app that you can check.
Yeah. That's what I asked. I asked them to try. What's that?
It did come up as clematis, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah, wild, but wild. It's a wild clematis. Yeah, but yet I haven't seen the. Oh, I think I saw the flower. Can't remember. But wild clematis. There's a whole bunch of them along the Vedder River. Whole bunch of them along the river, along the big trees. Around this time, you should be able to see them. But of course, they're not as beautiful as this picture, you know? Yeah. Okay, your turn. Oh, iPhone, yeah. Hi.
Morning, people.
Morning.
Everyone.
Morning.
I like these pictures, and it looks like feathers are very light and so soft.
Yeah.
But it's very special. They are very big, but they have a leg to let them spread.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are not leave the center.
Oh, I see. Okay. They're actually not. Yeah.
They still have a central point.
Yeah.
So it's very special.
Yeah, they're actually not very big. The flowers are like this size. I actually zoom it up with a zoom lens. Yeah, they are very small, but they are very fluffy, fuzzy, fluffy. Yeah, the color combination is just superb, just perfect, brown and white. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you. So, anybody else? Anybody who hasn't spoken before are welcome to speak up. Okay, how come you're getting more accustomed to this mode of teaching? Maybe we should change again, huh? Yeah. You're more enthusiastic in the beginning to talk. Isabella, yeah, good.
Hi, good evening, Stephen and everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, when I see this picture, I think of like the cotton.
Cotton, yeah.
Like
yeah.
know the cotton
Yeah,
flowers.
yeah.
People grab them and put them in the blanket and then keep ourselves warm.
Yeah.
And then every little thing, if we can find a way to use it, fully utilize it, then it's usable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's growing along the river, and then when the winds come, and then it's just like flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And then it makes people's itchy nose or itchy skin. But like if we find a good way to use it, like
Yeah.
I don't know how to use this kind of flower, but like if we find a good way to use it, then there must be a way that like why this is on earth. This is around us. Yeah.
Exactly.
There must be a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe we don't know the reason why it's
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
like for sure they have their purpose on earth.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Sifu.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, actually, your comment actually bring our thought in my mind is Polam is called Polam because Polam has so many great things on Polam's land, on Polam's earth. The weeds, everybody call them weeds, but we pick them, we eat them, and they is called pigweed. It's for pigs to eat. But yet, that is one of the best vegetables in the Chinese vegetable world. It's the pigweed, and especially it's organic pigweed. You cannot get it anywhere, and it tastes so good. I think Indians use that too because a few years ago I saw a couple of Indians of Fuji. She told me that she came from Fuji. She and her mother were picking on that side and they had big bags. I said, this is our land. You should have come and ask us first. Next time, ask us, then you can come to pick. But if you don't ask, it's, not very nice. I didn't say stealing, but it's not very nice. She said, oh, okay. But pigweeds. And yesterday I went to Superstore on those where the Chinese vegetables are. They are selling one vegetable that is growing everywhere, a weed here. We call it guaji choy. The one with like a pumpkin seed, yeah. One stem with a lot of like this. It's all over the place. $6.95. Maybe for 200 grams. I look at this. We grow it here. We should have picked it and sell it to a superstore. And there are more. And then cai choy. Cai choy is one of the very famous Chinese Shanghainese vegetables. Enoch always come and pick to make dumpling. Enoch choy, you call it, okay. It's wheat here. It's wheat until you know it. Because I didn't know it until 2012. I had a couple of students who came from China. Remember, okay. And his wife saw this qi cai, Enoch choy on. She said, Sifu, you've got precious vegetable in your field. I said, what? And she said, this is qi cai, $50 a pound. In China, $50 is a lot of money per pound, and it's everywhere. Weeds. And Isabella said it really right. There must be a reason for it to be on earth. There is a reason for it. It's just that whether we can actually find how to use it. Not necessarily all for human consumption, but for birds, for squirrels, and for other species. They could be useful. Think about the weeds. So that's why we keep asking you not to till the land so badly. You get rid of all our weeds, Especially the Enoch choy. We hardly see anything.
There's many lifetimes of weeds in the fields.
Okay. All right. Anybody else who have anything to say about this picture? Yes, Titania.
Thank you, Sifu. Sifu, I love Cai Choy.
Oh, are you Shanghainese? Are you
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I use Cai Choy to make dumplings too.
But we cannot get the chai choy in Vancouver, can we?
Not fresh, but frozen.
Oh, it was way different. Yeah.
Better than none.
Of course. Can you imagine when it is fresh? And it's like the size of our face.
Wow.
Yeah, the size of our face. The leaves is that long, and it's still very, very young. It's just amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing because
Yeah.
the nature is so amazing. And Sifu, thank you for sharing all your photos because it got so many inspiration in your book. Just looking at the photo, like today's photo, this is, for me, it looks simple yet very complex. When you look deeper, it depends on your focus, right?
Yes.
And there's both softness and firmness in this photo.
Yeah.
And that once I want to fly and float with the white fluffy clematis.
Clematis.
Yet the center is so firm.
Yeah.
That reminds me of having the right view and right thinking.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
That's like the crust, the most important part of our practice.
Yeah.
And there might be disturbance from outside, like the branches abroad.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But that won't affect the center.
Yeah.
So, it reminds me of the Igbo path, etc., etc. So,
Good.
thank you for sharing.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad that you like the pictures. I like the pictures too. But seeing the real picture on the computer, does it show better on computer?
Actually, I think it shows best on that screen.
But I mean, even that picture is better than in the book, right? Yeah. It's better than in the book. Yeah, the book printing, right? You lost about 50%, huh? Yeah. Tan Sifu is very expert in printing, so 50%. Yeah, you can. Yeah, look at the center. Yeah, it's true. It's very complex. There is a center round one, and then there is this brown whatever what you call a tear-shaped seeds in there, and then there is this like whisker, right, coming out from the center, spreading its wings, and then the fluffiness is actually so many layers in just one simple flower, so many layers. And the center is actually protecting its most precious thing in the seeds, so that next year they can propagate again, right? Yeah. And yeah, it's just pretty nice. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any more thing to share? Catherine, yes. Thank you.
Good evening, Sifu.
Evening. Yeah.
Beautiful flowers. But if I look deeply into it, it's just remind me of when the sand stores open, and then and my emotion is all entangled, and then sometimes I have this feeling too, and I don't know what to think. It's just all tangled together as emotion. So but I remember Sifu's the deep. I just take a deep breath, and then the slow down. Slow down. Emotion and things, and
all entangled, eh? Yeah, all entangled, but yet you can find a way out. Just like the flowers, they're all entangled, but the seeds are so outstanding, and eventually those seeds will survive. Will survive the harsh winter, and next year they will come back again. You see, no matter how entangled it is, the nature, and I think also as well as our human mind can find a way to actually unentangle itself. It's whether we are willing to. But the flowers, they are forced to be willing. They are forced to be in that situation. But we have a choice. For us, we have a choice. But the flowers, they're not forced to, but they're there. But and then they are so exposed to. They could become very fragile, but yet you can see the flowers, the whiskers are fragile, but yet the center, the core is so strong. The core, it's just like our core. Our core could be very strong, but where do we put the strength? That's very important, right? And the flowers put their strength in, hoping next year they will come back again. Of course, that is our human interpretation of the flowers, for the flowers. But we have to look at this and remind ourselves our core also. What the Buddha said: our core is purity, our core is compassion, our core is wisdom. That's our core. But we are always being distracted by all this fluffiness. Yeah. All this fluffiness and forget the core. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Do we have a mic today? Nobody? Pretty quiet in here today. No? Nobody? Jaron? No? No? Okay. Anybody?
The center looks like a spice star anise.
Yeah, anise, yeah. So NC said the center looks like a bạc cọ, phá chiếu bạc cọ, the anise star anise, right? Yeah, but it is not. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, then we go on to the passage then. Wild Clematis, so I'll remember. A calm and subtle breath suddenly becomes rougher, deeper, and tighter. It is telling you that something is happening in the mind at this present moment. How was your breath just now during meditation? I nearly forgot to actually ring the bell. All of a sudden I saw, like in that daze, I said, where am I? Do I need to ring the bell? And I look, oh yes, 44 minutes. It's just right on 44. Yeah. So how was your breath just now during your meditation? So let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no, 9 only, 10, yes. 10 people of tonight just on the screen. 10 out of you actually come on every Sunday for half day meditation, every Sunday. You see, I can remember all the faces on Sunday half day meditation. So you know that we have been, looking at we have been taking the Anapanasati practice step by step. So you should be able to share with me how was your breath just now. You could have asked me, Sifu, which breath are you talking about? Huh? Right? Which breath are you talking about? Your breath or my breath? Or is there really your breath and all? There's something called my breath? Titania, you have something to say about your breath? You are smiling.
Thank you, Sifu. meditation.
Yeah.
I try not to think of what you said on Sunday because you told us to practice the long breath
Yeah.
and then the normal breath and then the short breath, right?
Yeah, yeah, right.
I try not to use my mind because if not, then I won't be like be at the moment with my breath. So at first I struggled, and then I told myself, sorry, I had been thinking a little bit because it's still new for me, and so I told myself, just be it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I felt some sweat on my body.
Yeah.
Maybe the short breath, and then during the long breath, I start to feel how to put it, some coolness on my forehead.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the long breath make me feel a little bit cooler, calmer. So it's amazing. That's why, Sifu, you are so smart. I really want to share with you. And also, one more point is, I found that I can focus on the solid, the tool.
The tool,
That
yeah.
I need the breath, the tool.
Yeah.
And I found that today's meditation flies by so fast.
Yes.
I remember you told us once that you wouldn't know the passage of time.
Exactly.
And just now when you rang the bell, oh, it's already 45.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you for letting me share with you.
Good, good.
I will keep up.
Good. Great. Wonderful. Okay, so the rest of you didn't have your breath just now? Okay, Versa. Then Irene, okay.
Okay, good evening. I definitely felt a rougher breath this
Today?
evening. Yeah, this evening. But it's not typical, but I'm more likely to have a deeper, calmer breath when I meditate in the morning, which is generally my better time for meditating. I know we're supposed to do it twice a day, but I'm much better in the morning. But in the evening, I always have a much harder time settling. My mind is running, and so I know that I'm at a more shallow breath.
Yeah.
And so I definitely felt that today.
Good.
No, not good, but
Really?
I notice it.
There's no bad or good meditation, remember? The bad or good meditation is your own judgment because you're expected. Yeah, there is an expectation there. Oh, I feel calmer. Also, this is a better meditation. Oh, it's rougher, more agitated. This is a worse meditation. There is no such thing as bad or good meditation. Anytime you are able to sit down, it's already good enough, right? So remember, stop judging that meditation as bad or good. Otherwise, you start labeling, and that is not mindfulness. It's craving. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. So Irene, great. Irene. Okay. All right. Yeah. She has two screens. You see, she's got problems. So, yeah. So she will speak from the other screen. Yeah. Okay. There you go. No problem.
Okay. During the meditation, I feel the long breath
Yeah.
is deeper and calmer, and also follow, like a very subtle, small, short breath, but they are calm, not rough or agitated.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
One, and each breath is different.
Of course.
It doesn't matter long or short.
Yeah.
But I found more wandering thoughts when I go back to the normal breath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I need to pull back and then go back to the
long breath. Yeah.
Yeah. But when this morning when I meditate, and then I just feel a little bit different than before. I don't know, just like the absorptions. How do I describe it? I don't know how to describe it, but very light. The body's very light.
Yeah.
Instead of
yeah. Heavy.
Hard and pressed.
Yeah.
Is very light.
Good.
So this is the first time that I felt lightness.
Good. Okay. Great. Good. You see, you all have a breath, and you all have experience, but you just don't share. That's all. Okay. All right. The breath. So we're talking about the breath, and we all know that this breath, our human existence actually sustains on different kind of energy, sources of energy. And so different sources of energy. So, the first one, of course, is food, right? Food, whether it's Chinese food or Indian food or Italian food, it's food. It gives us energy. It nourishes the physical body. Sometimes it nourishes the mind too. When you have craving for ice cream and then you go to have ice cream, that snack is like this, that is really not food, but snack. But still, it nourishes the body and the mind. The food, we need the energy. So, and then the second type of energy, that the source of energy to sustain this human life is, of course, sleep, right? Rest. But a lot of time of our lives, we pay very little attention to one thing, and but it is the most important, actually, for our energy source, and for nourishing the physical body, and for actually giving us a tool as how our state of mind is the third source of energy is the breath. So actually, a lot of times we could easily be so distracted and we forget this breath is so important. We put the importance on so many other things instead of the breath. Right? You agree? So people think that food is so important, so they keep eating and going, and then or sleep is so important, or even clothes or fame. So these are all things that people sort of a lot of time likely to put the attention on, but we forget. A lot of times we forget to put our attention on the breath. And we forget about the importance of the breath. It's so important to sustain this human body, this human life. Without it, as we talked about last week, without it, there's nothing can go on, right? So, and then the sources of energy also come from, the last source comes from the mind, and when you have a very tired or unhappy mind, is actually a very straining situation for the body and the mind, right? But if you have a very light mind, bright mind, happy, easygoing mind, nothing can really bother you. Then it's you seems to be like happy all the time, and you seems to have energy all the time. Of course, when we look at this, the breath and the mind are very closely interrelated together. So the breath actually is a very, very important source of our energy, and this breath can really help us to energize our whole system, whether it's the physical part or the mental part. So if we are tired, or if we are really just now you said, wandered and everything, and if you could bring back your own attention to the breath, you notice, you'll find that it really could help you to get grounded. So remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about we have a nervous system. It's called autonomic nervous system, and there are two parts to the autonomic nervous system. And first one is the parasympathetic system, which actually bring us calmness, recover, healing, restore energy, and rest. And then on the opposite side, there is the sympathetic system, which actually is the fight or flight mode. Okay. And so it activates a behavioral pattern, like or habits. So why do I have to bring this back again? Because I want to talk about the breath, right? Tonight, still talking about the breath, because the whole chapter is about the breath. So when we look at these two nervous systems, either one of them can kick off at any one time. So if we are constantly, have a very energetic sympathetic system, can you imagine what kind of our mind is going to be like? Right? And if we do not remember to sparkle this parasympathetic system up, then we are constantly in that sympathetic system. That's what the problem nowadays in today's world is. People constantly going into that mode, the fight or flight mode, like agitated, irritated mode. And then we actually, the other system become very weak. So whenever this sympathetic system is in overdrive, actually it brings on so much more stress and imbalance to our mind. And that mind will affect the body, right? So scientists have proven, I'm not saying just scientists, I say medical scientists. They could be doctors, they could be clinical psychologists, or they could be neuroscience researchers. But mostly the doctors actually found out the medications, for example, like anti-anxiety drugs, or all those medications, if we're looking at imbalance from stress, so a lot of time they will prescribe anti-anxiety drugs or antidepressive or whatever, and those medications can only work on the SNS, sympathetic nervous system. It cannot help the PNS. So this is the diagram that you can understand more. So with the imbalance from stress, that PNS is really what you call dormant, right? And the SNS is really, really active, working. And medications cannot help to actually kick on the PNS or suppress PNS. Okay, so, but we need the PNS to be able to kick into gear at times of challenges and throughout our life, so that we do not become overburdened by all these stresses and that come with vicissitudes of lives. And I mean, life is definitely all the time is filled with ups and downs. And if we do not find a way to start this PNS, okay, so this PNS, is parasympathetic system, or PSN, parasympathetic nervous system. If we do not find a way to kickstart this PNS, then we are constantly in that SNS mode. And it's going to be very difficult for ourselves, because we encounter, days in, days out stresses and difficulties. Okay, and so how are we going to balance this? How are we going to actually kickstart that PNS? So scientists and medical professionals, they have found out the breath. The breath actually could bring a balance to a PNS and to an SNS. We cannot do without SNS, because we need to have this SNS present, because at times of crisis, we need to have that flight or fight mode. We need to. Otherwise, we're just numb and limbo, and when there is a fire, we don't know where to grab the fire extinguisher, or where to run for our lives, or how we can help others to help others who are in difficulties. We need the SNS. We don't want to suppress the SNS all the time, but we don't want it to be always in the first gear or in the fourth gear or the fifth gear. Right? We need to put that into neutral sometimes. So the scientists and the medical professions, they found out that, by using the breath, especially a kind of breath they call coherent breath, coherent breathing. I don't know whether you have heard about that before. No? Coherent breathing is the long breath. They said if you use the coherent breathe, it helps to bring this balance between the PNS and the SNS. And it will bring like ease and calmness and harmony to ourselves. So, and they also said, because every time we breathe in through our lungs, and these organs here, the chest and the stomach and the liver and the lungs, they all send, especially the lungs, all send little messages up the vagus nerve. That is the main nerve that's connecting through the lungs and to the brain. The vagus nerve, they send different little minute messages, thousands, hundreds of thousands of messages to the brain. And then to the brain and then the brain actually gets these messages, and then it knows which to kick off. PNS, SNS, PNS, SNS. So these powerful messages actually influences how different part of our brain works. So scientists actually, you have heard about that. Scientists actually, attach electrodes to meditators, right, to check out which part of the brain actually illuminates when they are in meditation. And they actually come to a conclusion is all these actually messages, affects different parts of the brain. And those people who are in meditation, they affect the part of the brain that actually is responsible for peace, ease, harmony, and happiness. So they said, with coherent breathing, what is coherent breathing? Remember we talked about how many breaths we take for human beings and how many breaths a turtle take? Remember we take about between 13 to 16? The coherent breathing is between 3 and 6 in 1 minute. And you could try it. It really slow down. Then that's what the Buddha said, long breath, right? Long breath. You see, the scientists are really picking the best stuff out of the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha has taught everything is best, but they pick up a bit of the best thing and then, elaborate them in their own language, which I don't mind, and I think it's good. At least, other people who are not fortunate enough like us to encounter all the words of the Buddha, at least they got one part which is good for them to use, right? So gently and slowly take this long breath in and slowly and gently breathe it out. And it says it's called coherent breathing, between 3 and 6. And the scientist, can't remember her name, she said the best is try to do it 5 breaths. So I actually, after I read this article quite some time ago, I tried it myself and I had to experience what they said, right? And it really is just like the Anapanasati. It's just like the Anapanasati, the 3rd step of Anapanasati. So you can see that the scientists are verifying what the Buddha taught was the best, right? So when we talk about this coherent breathing or the long breath, remember when you take the breath in, you don't have to use any efforts, like not like this, okay? Or when you breathe out, it's like this. No, not like this, okay? No effort bringing it in, no effort pushing it out. It's gentle, soft, and slow. And with this, actually, it turns that SNS down. It turns the fear mode, the fight mode down. And it actually raises this PNS mode up. So it brings a balance to our autonomic nervous system. So with that, it actually activates a sense of safety, a sense of calm and ease. So that you can see just that, we can see how far it can go. It can really, really go very far because it brings on a very settled emotional state. And you know, anybody can practice this. So breathing exercise is actually very good. Of course, they are actually using it as a breathing exercise, as to settle down the emotions. But yet, for us, we are not using it as an exercise. We are using it as a tool for our spiritual growth. As I said in meditation, it's the cultivation, it's bhavana. It's the development, it's a bhavana. It's not an exercise. Okay? So we always have to remember that. Okay? So we all know this breath has its own rhythm, right? Our life has its, any part of our life has its own rhythm. The heart has its own rhythm, right? The muscles have their own rhythm. And even the eyes, the vibration, the blinking of the eyes have their own rhythm. And so is the breath has its own rhythm. So if we actually observe carefully, there is a rhythm in the nature, there's a rhythm in our existence and in our own body. So why are we hungry? Because that rhythm tells you that's hunger, right? The rhythm is disrupted, is disturbed, it's not stable, it's not balanced. So you feel that hungry feeling in there. So there is this, we all have this biorhythm, okay? Then we have this rhythm in the breath. You notice, in the morning, it's different. In the afternoon, it could be very different. And in the evening, it even could be very different. Or when you are full of energy, it's very different. When you are short of energy, it's very different. So it's a different rhythm for each different situation, for each mode different kind of mode that we are in. So we know by looking at the rhythm of the breath, actually we could see what's going on with our body, with our mind, right? So this rhythm of the breath actually changes with the emotions that we experience, right? We all have experienced that. When we are angry, what kind of rhythm are we experiencing? Would we experience when we are angry? What kind of rhythm? Your heart goes thumping, thumping, thumping. The heart is out of rhythm, right? It's not the normal rhythm. And your breath is not the normal rhythm. So is your body is not the normal rhythm when you are angry. Because why? There is a lot of heat. There could be a lot of heat there. And heat is a very different rhythm than just the normal 37 degrees temperature. Right? So there is when we look at the rhythm in our system, our physical body, we know what kind of mindset we are in, what kind of mentality we are in. And so that's why it is so important to really pay attention to the breath. Okay, so the Buddha, ever since he was a child, he already know how to observe the breath. And when he started to teach, of course, he taught the breath as one of the very important practice. But remember, I don't know whether you remember, before the Buddha enlightenment. I knew I forgot something. Do we have a book here in the Buddha's words here?
Yes.
Please, can you get it for me? I forgot to bring a book. So remember, before the Buddha's enlightenment, he sat there meditating, and remember what kind of breath he went through. Can you remember? Thank you. Can you remember?
Painful, piercing.
Painful, piercing. Yeah, and then? Loud sound, right, of winds coming out of the ears, and he was trying to hold his breath. Remember? Yeah, in this book, in the Buddha's words. Remember, we studied that last year. Was it last year?
That's when he was going through the phases of trying to figure out what was
Exactly. Yeah, you remember, hey? Yeah, he was trying to figure out what to do, right? And yeah, right, yeah, good, yeah, unbearable pain in the chest when he was trying to hold this breath, and the breathless meditation. Remember? Yeah. So read that book. Read that chapter in The Bringer of Light, page 62, 61, 62 in this book. So remember that he pressing his palate and with the tongue and forcibly attempting to restrain his own breath. Remember that? So he noticed that this causes so much pain, and it's not conducive to enlightenment, right? So he started, incorporating a moderate modulation of the length of the breath as part of this 16 steps of Anapanasati. And actually, when he started teaching the breath meditation, he actually didn't have it in such a way divided into 16 steps. But later on, with his teachings, it was sort of like becoming very organized and systematic. And so there came this Anapanasati Sutta. So if you go back to read page 61 to 64 and how the Buddha actually went through when he was seeking for enlightenment, when he was doing this breathless meditation, what kind of physical pain and physical pain he was going through. But he said one thing is, even though it was so much of physical pain, none of that invade his mind and remain. So it just came and go, came and went. Because of course the Buddha knew nothing was permanent, but us. It's a different story. If we experience that, we think that it will last forever and it will kill me eventually, right? So this Anapanasati Sutta is when we start to observe the breath, this is actually very important. Is we need to have a foundation of mindfulness already. Otherwise, you're constantly fighting. That's why it's actually very difficult for some students who go into a really serious retreat and right away go into observing the breath. And they're constantly fighting. Because why? They don't have any experience. They don't have any mindfulness. They don't have a basis of mindfulness. That basis of mindfulness is so important that when you sit down and you are taught to observe your breath, then you use that technique of mindfulness already. You're not using the tool to develop that mindfulness. You already start off with mindfulness. We all have this ability to be mindful, but yet we haven't trained ourselves to be mindful. That's why when it put to you, you say, okay, you observe your breath. It's so difficult because the mind is constantly running. And also, so many students have this wrong interpretation of awareness of the breath. They try to grasp onto the breath, hold onto the breath and not letting it go. And what would that create? It's just like breathless meditation. You create such a tension, and your jaws would clench up, your foreheads would all frown up, and you are just going like this, oh, right here. also, stay here. And that forfeits the whole purpose of what the Buddha has taught. Really. The Buddha said you just have to be aware. Because the breath is there. Where is the breath going to go? It's not going to go anywhere. Until you die. Then it's gone. But when you're alive, the breath is there. Why do you need to use so strenuous efforts to watch it? Because why? At the back of the mind, there is craving there. There is a craving. I need to grasp on this breath. The breath can happen anywhere. You can observe the breath anywhere. It's throughout this whole physical existence. Of course, the other parts is more difficult to be aware of. This is the most obvious part. Or this is the most obvious part. But yes, still, you don't have to grasp on, you don't have to try to hold on to it. When you try to hold on to it, ask yourself, why am I so tense trying to observe the breath? Why am I so tense? Because you don't want to let the breath go. So when we start to observe that breath, we need a certain level of mindfulness. And then we use that mindfulness to observe the breath. Okay? Then it's easier to become aware of the breath with this help of mindfulness. So, and in the first step in Anapanasati, it says when inhaling a long breath, he understands I am inhaling a long breath. While exhaling a long breath, he understands I am exhaling a long breath. There's nothing you do. You should be doing over there. You're just knowing. That simply knowing is being mindful, being aware, and not doing anything. Don't try to do anything. When you try to do anything, you are doing it wrong. Okay? So when we start to look at this long breath, you have said it just now, the long breath is fine. It's finer. It's actually, and it brings ease and comfort to the body. And as Chaitanya said, it cools down the body. It does have a cooling effect. A long breath does have a cooling effect. And that's why the body can become cool. And when we need to cool down, you will naturally, a lot of time, this is an instinct that we all have. When you want to cool down, when you want to get grounded, you tend to take a long breath. I remember there was somebody, teaching, sort of observing the breath, and then he was interviewing a very renowned physician, because he was teaching this breath, right? And he said, Dr. So-and-so, have you tried this long breath or short breath? Or have you tried this breath meditation? And you know what the doctor said to him? He said, I don't need to try. It's an instinct. It's an instinct that we all have. But whether we remember to use it, that's a different thing. He said, when we are in the operation theater, operation room, if we actually encounter a very difficult surgery, the first thing we know what to do is take a long breath. Take a long breath and start again. Take a long breath and start again. He said, we don't need to learn how to take a long breath, because it is a human instinct. Because that is what the PNS does. Right? The parasympathetic system. Okay? So read this word carefully. When inhaling a long breath, he understands. That's the key word there. Understands. That means when you are feeling this long breath, you through that experience, you understand what's going on by knowing what is going on. Okay? So, and then the second step is when he inhaling a short breath, he understands, I am inhaling a short breath. And when exhaling a short breath, he understands, I am exhaling a short breath. Remember, the key word here is also understands. Okay? And so when we actually take a short breath in, when we take a short breath out, we understand. We know what is going on in the body. Remember on Sunday, one of your fellow meditators said, I don't know whether I'm doing it right or wrong, but when I try the short breath meditation, my heart starts to beat up faster, remember? And my body, especially the upper part of the body, gets so much tense. So she was wondering whether she was doing it wrong. No, she was completely right. That is the experience. And she should understand through that experience, what does a short breath do to our body and to our mind? Right? So when we take a short breath, what kind of nervous system kicks in? Sympathetic, the SNS, right? The sympathetic system kicks in. The breath becomes rough, the breath becomes coarse, the breath becomes short. Okay, so when that breath becomes short, the body will be disturbed. Right? The physical body will be disturbed. There will be an unease in the physical body. Tension is an unease, right? So the heartbeat is an unease. When you feel that heartbeat, sometimes my students come to me, I have this fast heartbeat. Am I going to have a heart attack? I said, who am I to say whether you are going to have a heart attack or not? I can't. because I don't want to get sued, right? If he's going to really have a heart attack, and I say it's not a heart attack, then probably at the end of the of the course he will come and sue me, right? But I said, well, I'm not here to say whether you're going to have a heart attack or not, but I'm here to tell you, to remind you to observe that fastness, that fast pace of your heartbeat, and try to maintain the balance of mind. Of course, it's very difficult, right? When people are really not experienced enough, and maybe they don't have that kind of confidence yet, so it's very difficult for them to really accept that they're not going to have a heart attack. So when we start to understand a long breath and a short breath, we start to understand more about the interrelationship between these three things: the breath, the mind, and the body. The breath is a bridging the mind and the body. As I always say in my meditation, when I teach meditation, I said there are many bridges that connect the mind with the body, and the breath is one of those bridges. So when we look at this, look the breath and the mind and the body, they are all connected. They are all interrelated. Okay? And this breath, a lot of time, functions as a bridge between these two things. So by observing the breath, by feeling the breath, by understanding the breath, we start to actually see that, wow, there is this really strong interplay between the mind and the body, right? And this, when we understand how do they play out, and we could maintain a clarity, we could maintain a balance on just being an observer, not looking outside, not from the outside looking inside. No, it's inside looking at inside. Okay, it's really, you think it's none of your business? No, it's your business. So do not look from outside to inside, but inside to inside. When you start to look at this, you start to understand it more. As the Buddha said, you understand what a long breath does and what a short breath does. You understand. When you start to understand, it's becoming so personal. It's a personal understanding. And when you start to understand, you say, oh yes, now I understand. When you understand more, that means you're growing, you're progressing on this path, right? As if like we're walking up the stairs. We see these stairs, we see this step. We take one step up. Oh, yes, I see that there is another step. I can go up another step because you further understand a little bit more about the stairs. It's just like that. So with this breath, when you understand more about this interrelationship between the mind and the body and how does this breath actually bridges these two things together, you say, wow, this is a knowledge, this is an experience I can use to grow, to progress. Progress in what direction? In the spiritual enlightenment. Right? So this is actually this breath is actually a very wholesome tool, a very vital tool for our own wholesome being, not doing. Remember the two modes of our existence? One is being, the other one is doing. It's being, wholesome being, not wholesome doing. You need to be wholesome being first before you can actually wholesome doing. Right? So, as I said just now, as when we are angry, the breath becomes so short and rough, and the body is experiencing very rough and solidified sensations or feelings. Therefore, if we would like to subdue those negativities, what should we do? What kind of breath should we adopt? A long breath, right? So you have all experienced this, right? When you're, as I shared with you just now, what the surgeon said is instinct. But we need to make use of this instinct. We need to remember how to use it. That's his mindfulness. Okay? So that's why when it comes to the third step of Anapanasati, it's even more obvious. He said he trains in this way. I will experience my entire body while inhaling. He trains in this way. I will experience my entire body while exhaling. You see, as I said on Sunday, this is the first 3 steps of the first 4 steps of the first part. There are 4th part to it, right? And the first part is the body, and the breath is a part of the bodily existence. So this inhalation, long or short, like in the first 2 steps, long breath brings in ease, comfort, calmness. Short breath, we understand how does it affect the mind and also the body. So the body cools down with a long breath. The body heats up with a short breath. The body feels ease with a long breath. The body feels unease, disturbed with a short breath. And the mind feels calm with a long breath. And the mind feels disrupted, agitated, irritated with a short breath. Okay? So it's not just the mind, it's not just the body, it's the body and the mind. So they are a triangle. They are there, remember. And the breath is the bridge between it. So this mindfulness is about the unification of breath, body, and mind. So in the third practice of Anapanasati, we understand we are using this breath to unify the body and the mind. And when we can unify the body and the mind, body, and the breath are together, then we are not a zombie. But if the breath, you forget about the breath, and the mind and the body is gone, so you're sitting here, but the mind is somewhere else, you're a zombie. You're a walking zombie. You're hollow because the mind is not here. Right? So that's why the whole training taught by the Buddha is teach us how to unify the mind and the body so that we are one whole existence here. And the breath is the one wonderful tool. And mindfulness, of course, is very, very much needed to bring them all together. When the body and the mind are unified, you know what? A lot of the trauma that we experience or that we have experienced in the past could be healed. And could be resolved and could be dealt with. But if they are not unified, a lot of this trauma could create more trauma, could crack up the mind more. So, and it is very difficult to heal. So when we actually meditate, when we actually sit down and meditate, you notice if the body is settled, the mind can settle down faster, right? If the body is still, the mind can be still. And same, if the mind is still, even though the body is experiencing tremendous difficulty, but still, it is still okay, right? So these three things, the mind, the breath, and the body, when they all work together, all become one, it just brings so much harmony and peace and calmness to that moment. Because none of them are somewhere else. But we are always somewhere else, right? Agree? Always somewhere else. That's why we have so much to deal with. We have so much anxiety, we have so much anger, and we have so less energy. Why? Because they are all everywhere. Three things, three different places. Right? That's why it's so difficult to be calm and tranquil and peaceful and happy. And look at some of the past teachers. I just read about the fruit monk again. His biography just this afternoon. I read his biography again. Guangyam Lo Wo Sang, the fruit monk, and he sat in meditation for 4 months in the cave. 4 months. And the people, the village people, thought that he was dead and was going to cremate him, but yet the village people went to tell the abbots that the fruit monk Guangyam Lo Wo Sang has died, because I've checked him 4 months ago. He still had a little bit of breath. Now he doesn't have any breath, no pulse, no breath. He's definitely dead. 4 months. Anybody should have come out from that deep meditation now. 4 months, right? The abbot said, hold, until I call another monk here to verify. So he called another monk here. He called another monk to go up to the mountain, Wang Yat Dai Si. And Wang Yat Dai Si said, no, he's in deep samadhi. And so Wang Yat Dai Si flipped his fingers 3 times. There, he came out of his samadhi. 4 months. Why? Because the mind, the body, and the breath are all unified, continuously unified. No interruption, no disruptions. That's how people can actually sit in meditation for a long time. And the whole body is so sturdy, like the core of the seed, sturdy, strong, like adhere to the ground, like with glue. Okay, so everything is so settled and so subdued, so calm. So we know through development, through growth, through more understanding, we understand more, than we build up this mindfulness more. We understand more, we build up mindfulness, and we become more mindful, we build up more understanding. So they all work together. This all interrelated. And when all these breath, body, and mind are all unified, there is this mental state that I don't think anybody can have words to describe. And And the breath, of course, is sort of like a facilitator here, right? A facilitator, or whatever you want to call it, a negotiator, whatever you want to call it, to bring on such, such bliss. And I see that happens many times, especially with terminally ill patients, when they really start to put their faith into the practice of just by breath. I mean, even my brother, who is a Christian, and he learned this breath meditation from me, and even him, he actually managed to cut down half of the dosage of morphine that he had to take. And that much of medication could be removed, could be, he didn't need to use. And some, actually, I've known some patients, after they have adopted such a meditation and totally in it, they could completely off from morphine. So it really depends on the mental, on the mind of that person, how unified they can be. Okay, so we are actually training the mind to be aware, and we a lot of times during meditation, when we sit down, don't try to do anything. Try not to do anything. Just try to be with it, with the breath. Just try to be. If you start to really persist in this kind of practice long enough, gradually, slowly, peacefully, calmly, and naturally you'll be able to deepen your practice. But if you're trying to do something, you're trying to attain something, I tell you, you're actually walking towards the opposite direction. You're not going anywhere. Okay, so I love this Anapanasati because it's so down to earth, and but there are so many deep hidden meanings in these simple steps. Just a few words, but if you miss the most crucial word, you misunderstand the whole thing. Okay, so remember these 3 steps. The most important thing is understand. And this understand is mere awareness. Just mere awareness, not doing anything. But not doing anything doesn't mean that your mind is drowsy or hazy, misty. Your mind is very, very wakeful, very focused, very unified with the body and the breath. And the breath is a universal tool. The breath, anybody have the breath? The breath is just like our hearts, our lungs. Their functions are really, impersonal, I could say. It could be it should be impersonal because it's really, is there something called my breath or your breath? No, it's just a breath. Even though if you don't pay attention to it, it's still doing its work. So there is no such thing as my breath or your breath. The breath is just a breath. Don't start to say, oh, my breath is long, my breath is short. Then you are actually strengthening your ego or your attachment to this I and me and mine. And you can actually detach yourself from I, me, and mine from saying this breath. This breath is a long breath. This breath is a short breath. And this breath is actually a very, very useful tool for you, for us to actually to be aware of this present moment, because the only breath that one can observe is the breath that is happening right now, right here. Not the last one, not the future one, but this one. And it will not discriminate you. It's like, okay, you miss me in the last breath, I'm not going to let you watch me this breath. No, it won't. That's why that's why it's so impersonal. It doesn't hold any grudge on you, right? And so it doesn't mind you using it either. So we know this breath is really could be a very, very useful tool, and we know that it is possible to change the way our emotions are by regulating our breath, by changing our breath when it is necessary, but not when we are just normal, doing things, normally working or talking. But when we need to actually calm our negativity at any time, we know that we can do that by regulating our breath, by controlling it. And after it's being calmed down, then we can go back to the normal breath, the normal natural breath. So the breath actually is a wonderful universal tool for everybody, any religion, any nationality to use to help each one of us to cope with ups and downs in our lives. If we could actually train ourselves to understand the breath more, and if we could remember to use it more often as it is necessary. Okay? So that's why the Buddha said, observe your breath. Just observe your breath. Just observe this breath. With this, you can start to observe the sensation and go beyond to see what the true nature of our life is. So that's why among many of the Chinese Chan masters, they say all the time, they teach all the time is, we should not be afraid of any thoughts arising or wandering thoughts arising. We should be worried that we don't have this awareness. The awareness come too late. So we should be worried about the awareness coming too late or never come at all. Should not be aware of thoughts, wandering thoughts. Okay? So this is what I have to offer for you tonight about this. Though, it's not too much about this, the emotions part, but it's really talking about the mind and the body and the breath, the three of them. In unison, then we are in a very safe place. All right? Okay? Okay, I have overrun. Okay, let us dedicate our merits then. May these blessings extend to all, that we with all the other living beings together will attain the Buddha way. May we wish more and more people will encounter the wise words of the Buddha, study them, understand them, practice them, and help themselves to liberate from their own sufferings, miseries, and be truly free, happy, and peaceful.